It's springtime, the birds are chirping and the bees are buzzing, and if you're like me, it's time to mow the lawn. But unlike me, you probably don't procrastinate on your mower maintenance. Admittedly, I've had this mower for a few years and I haven't done any maintenance. Since I didn't see an obvious oil drain on the engine, I looked online for a video or pictorial tutorial. Guess what? I could not find one for this mower or for this engine. I must be the only person with this model. So I did find a manual online and the instructions were okay, but not super great. And that's why I'm making this video. Not for you, the viewer, but so I can refer to it next year when I have to do this all over again. Let's get started. I have the Toro Time Cutter Z420 zero-turn mower. It has a 42-inch cutting width, and this Briggs & Stratton engine, which is rebadged as a 465 cubic centimeter Intek. I looked around the engine for a bit to find the oil drain, and this engine has a drain style that I'm not familiar with. It has a twist to open oil drain down in the least accessible area on the left side of the engine. It's that black nubbin right there. Now that I know where the oil will come out, I jacked up the right side of the mower so that the oil will drain out to the left once we open the hatch. If we were to drain the oil out straight away, it would turn into a huge mess. To direct the oil, I got a piece of hose with a 1/2 inch inner diameter, and this was a good fit on the drain valve. It just slid right on. We'll use this hose to direct the oil into this bottle, which you can see is giving me a real hard time about staying in place. So I took a walk over to my clamp collection and grabbed this F-clamp, and it did a good job at holding the bottle to the tire. Please pardon my camera framing here. There's not enough room for my hand, let alone a clean camera shot. I'm using some pliers here, basically because I didn't know what I was doing and I couldn't really see what was going on as this area is barely accessible. After a while, I figured I should look at the manual. Here's a page discussing draining of the oil. It has some very nice instructions. They say, rotate the drain valve to allow the oil to drain. And in my opinion, that's a little vague. It doesn't say which way or how far. And it certainly doesn't say to pull out the valve a little bit after rotating it. Let's look at the figure. If you had the paper manual, I doubt you'd be able to figure it out. I'm looking at the digital manual, so let's zoom in. Now you can see that there's a 90-degree slot that guides the movement of the valve. And here's the actual part. If you pull extra hard, it will pop off the mower. Don't ask me how I know. There's a pin on the engine side of this fitting, and that pin is usually here at the end of the slot. Now to open the valve, rotate it counterclockwise and then pull it out a little bit so the pin ends up at the opposite end of this slot. All right, now that we figured that out, let's get back to the oil change. The valve is open and the oil is draining, but it is draining much slower than I expected. I even opened up the fill cap on the top of the engine in case that it was causing some sort of vacuum situation, preventing the oil from draining. But even so, the oil drained fairly slow. Now that the oil is drained, it's time to change the oil filter. Now, to stay consistent, Toro made sure to put the filter in an equally difficult area to access. You can watch me struggle here to reach the filter, but I was able to get 2 hands on it and loosen it without a wrench or tool. Despite being careful, I did make a mess, so I cleaned that up real quick, and I'm going to move the camera down here so that you can get a good look at where the oil filter attaches to the engine. The oil filter just threads onto this threaded boss right here. And you can't see this while you're removing or installing the oil filter because the mower and your arms are in the way. It's completely blind. This is the replacement oil filter. I was able to buy it locally, but I did look up the part number online before purchasing it to make sure it would fit my particular engine. When installing any rubber seal, it's a good idea to lubricate the mating surfaces so that the rubber doesn't bind or tear during installation. I'm just using the motor oil that will be used to fill the engine later. Installation of the filter is the opposite of removal. Just close your eyes and fumble around between the gas tank and engine. This filter goes on hand tight and no wrenches are required. It's time to add the oil. But what type and how much? I'm using this Briggs & Stratton SAE 30 oil, and I know that's okay because I read the manual. See right here, SAE 30 for above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Also make note of the two different oil capacities listed. One is for when the oil filter is changed, and the other is for when the oil filter is not changed. And there's a difference because there's some oil in the filter. I'm going to start by adding this entire container of oil. It's 48 ounces, which is a bit shy of the 56 ounces suggested by the manual. I will then start the engine, let it run for a few minutes, shut it off, and let it cool down. At that point, I will check the level of the oil and add a little more until the gauge reads full. When checking the oil level, I usually wipe off the dipstick first to get rid of any rogue oil. I'll then reinsert it and take a reading. The oil level should reach this hashed area on the dipstick. And if you were ever thinking about overfilling the engine with oil, don't do it, because it says right here. Hopefully after watching this video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to maintain your lawnmower, and you'll be on your way to have a lawn that looks as nice as mine. I guess that's it for now. Smell you later.